and see Cecile. I think hopefully Tristan brought a bunch today. If not, we'll get more to Cecile. You can go pick one of these up. I'll say that again to everybody in a couple minutes here. You can go and pick one of these up and get that from Cecile to do that. And Felina, welcome. And Danielle, welcome. Oh, and Carlene, and you need to introduce yourself, who you are and the problem you're solving in there. And Bonita, thanks.
Just in the chat's okay?
Yeah, the chat, that's great. Oh yeah, then everybody have a sense. I'll ask you some verbal questions later on. And Bonita's starting a doggy daycare right now. And I'm taking Entrepreneurship 2262. Sounds great. Sure, get everybody in. Cecile's letting people in. I'm trying to let everybody in here. So, hi, Felina. We're going to begin in about 1 minute sharp and get going here with whoever we have here today. So welcome. If you want to introduce yourself in the chat, who you are and the problem you're solving or the idea that you have, that would be great. Today, we want you to have the lean canvas in front of you. So I've put a couple, I'll put them up again in the chat. I've given a fillable PDF that you can use or a PowerPoint template you can use, or you can just grab a piece of paper and a pen. And we've got a really cool booklet that you can access, that you can pick up from Cecile. And she'll have a bunch of these. And it's great to be able to go and do it on there.
Okay, shall we get started?
Yeah, we will get started.
Okay, everybody, thanks for joining me. I'm doing introductions in person and online at the same time. At NATE, we honor and acknowledge that the land on which we learn, work, and live is Treaty 6 territory. This place is a traditional homeland for the First Nations and Métis peoples, and today we are all part of this treaty land. The traditional name for this place is Misquachi-Waskigan, which we also call the City of Edmonton. Everybody welcome online. Welcome, Alan. I'm so happy that you're joining us. And in person, Tristan, I'm going to leave it to you guys to take it away.
Okay, good. Huge welcome. Looking forward to spending the next almost 2 hours with you and working through the lean canvas today. And I'll explain a little bit about that. First of all, let me just introduce myself. I'm a program facilitator, which with now is called Edmonton Unlimited. So you'll see the branding on the slide says Startup Edmonton, Division of Innovate Edmonton. We just did our change name rollout. All that's happening today and tomorrow. So you'll see a lot of our rebranding coming out to do that. Startup Edmonton is still part of our program delivery piece, but we're all under Edmonton Unlimited, really taking innovation from our city all the way to the world. So as a program facilitator, I am giving workshops like this frequently, and then doing our other programs. I'll talk about those just briefly in a few moments. My background is in education and not-for-profit work. I love working with NGOs. I'm currently coaching, doing a lot of coaching with an NGO on their marketing strategy, who is producing materials to help educators in schools, especially for children at risk in resilience area, and has done a ton of work with refugees as well. So I love to travel, though the pandemic that hasn't happened much, but I did get to spend a month in Uganda, East Africa in 2021, working with a number of different NGOs, especially on the area of sustainability piece. Doesn't look like 2022 will take me overseas, but I'm hoping to be in Greece working with an NGO, hopefully in the spring. That's my goal. So welcome to this workshop. Just a couple of housekeeping things for online. Feel free, use the chat. I'm going to monitor chat, keep my eyes in there. Thank you for those who have made introductions in the chat already. Do that. Also, feel free to come off mute at any time, ask a question. You don't have to raise a hand. You can just interject and say, hey, Alan, what about this? I'm going to be looking to try and give some feedback. We're not too big a group here today, so hopefully we can interact and engage. I also want to say right from the beginning that I'd love to be able to connect with you. You can check out our website. I'm fairly easy to find on LinkedIn, and I will put my email address up in the chat right now so you have it. If you feel like emailing me or following up, or if you want someone to be able to review your lean canvas with post this particular workshop. So it's great. In this workshop today, have a couple of students who have had the awesome privilege of working with. They're going to be examples as we go along today. First of all, I just want to tell you a little bit about, I'm going to jump ahead a couple of slides here, and then I'll come back. Tell you just a little bit what we do in our part of Edmonton Unlimited. We're really about community. Doing a startup is really hard. I mean, it's a lot of work, a lot of time. Sometimes, as Sam will tell you, you're juggling work, your startup, your school, programs to support your startup, all of these things going on. And so whatever support and people and resources you can pull around you, do that. You'll just find that so helpful. Also, we offer a lot of programs. Many of you are involved in programs at NATE, which we support to the best of our ability. But if we can connect you into some of our programs, from After Business Model 1 to Customer Discovery in our Discover and Validate series, or Building Your MVP in our pre-flight Build, Test, Learn, or in pre-flight Market, Sell, Pitch, which both Sam and Carlene in our group have done already, all the way up to our Stage 4 program. The other programs before are they're open to anyone. Do the work, meet the benchmarks. You can keep going in the programs. When you get to Stage 4, that's a competitive program, which we take about 20 companies a year. Sam, who is here, is in that program. It's called Propel. It's for companies who are launched and are learning to grow, getting ready to grow and to scale. So check out the programs, Edmonton Unlimited, and you will see a lot of great opportunities. We also like to be able to connect you with people that can help you. Every day, I'm making connections with people who can resource the companies, the early stage startups I'm working with. You know, as a coach, my job is to know like a little bit about a lot, but sometimes I don't feel like I know a lot about anything. And so, but I'm always connecting people, founders like you, to people who have the resources and to do that and use the resources. You got awesome resources at Nate and Cecile and in your in Dale and the people that are around there. Use them. They're there to really support you. Today we're going to be tackling the lean canvas. Sam, does this lean canvas look a little bit familiar?
Yeah, it does. I've got an updated one here on my screen.
Oh, sorry, I just grabbed one of yours to throw up there for everybody. So this is what we're going to spend in the next between now and about 5:45. Your task is going to be able to create this. So engage, and like I said earlier, if you can come on camera, love to have you on camera. Sometimes I know people can't. If you're not able to take in the whole workshop, it's probably best to come and do it at another time. And we really want you to be able to be here to like I said, to about 5:45 is when we're aiming to finish up at around that particular time. Sam, first of all, give us the elevator pitch of your business so people will know what you're all about.
Sure. So essentially, FinTrack's a mobile app, and it is the easiest way to learn how to build a financial plan, actually build your first financial plan in the privacy and comfort of your own home, and then actually implement your plan in less than 2 minutes a week.
That's great. So at the root, what caused you to want to start this business?
Yeah, so FinTrack was sort of born out of the necessity to solve my own problems with money. I was pretty much your classic case of overspending, emotionally spending, and just kind of flying by the seat of my pants financially. When I turned 25, I kind of hit a big epiphany in realization that I should probably get my crap together. And so I had a friend give me some advice who was also a financial planner, and his advice sounded pretty good to me. I'd never heard anything like it. And so I started putting it into action. And within 9 months, I'd saved $20,000. But more importantly, I hadn't felt anxiety around money for the first time in my life. I felt complete control of my money. And not only was I saving money, but I was also spending money confidently. I was traveling with my girlfriend, and I was investing for retirement. So, it was sort of an epiphany moment for me and a light bulb moment. And people started noticing that things were changing for me, and they started coming to me and asking me for advice on how to handle their money and how to manage it. So at first, I started consulting for free with people who wanted to learn how to build their financial plans, and then started charging for it, and realized that sitting down with people for 2 hours is really hard to scale across the world, and wanted to leverage technology to be able to impact millions of people. So that's where the idea for an app was created. And I thought to myself, well, if I can replace what I teach through a guided app, and with all the technology advancements like artificial intelligence and stuff like that, then that might be a pretty cool idea. So we built our first MVP in 30 days, launched, went to market. We've done we did $500 in our first month of revenue, which isn't crazy, but it was enough validation for us to say, okay, you know what, this might be something that people are willing to pay for, and we're solving a real problem here. So from that, we went back to our users and started asking them a lot of questions about what they liked, what they didn't like, what was working for them, what wasn't working for them. And it gave me a lot of insight, which helped develop the Lean Canvas even further, because I'm sure, as Alan will tell you, and if you've ever taken a Lean Canvas course before, this is a living, breathing document. This is not uh, a 200-page business plan that you write once and never touch again. I think this thing changes probably once a week for me based on new insights, new assumptions that have been validated or not validated. Um, and so it is an ever-going process, but it is your entire business in one page, which makes it incredibly useful. And it's been incredibly useful for me too. So.
Good. You know, I heard you talk about solving a real problem. You know, at the heart of, and I think some of us who down the road know this, at the heart of why any startup fails, no, not any startups, why many startups fail, is this question of desirability. Are you actually solving a problem that real people want to have solved and are willing to pay for it? And we're going to dive into that in just a few minutes. What that whole problem is. You know, is that pain point strong enough they would actually pay money to do that? As you dove into the problem, Sam, what did you figure out? You put a few on the screen here we can see. What did you figure out was the number one pain point that you wanted to solve with your solution?
Yeah, so it came down to stress, a really emotional um, factor. So many competitors in the industry, like budgeting apps, they really go after the dollars saved, but saving money doesn't mean you're not stressed about it. And so it really comes down to building a comprehensive plan that's sole purpose is to eliminate stress and help you feel confident about your money.
Good. The first three boxes on the lean canvas, the problem, the customer segment, and the unique value proposition. We're going to spend a lot of time on that this afternoon. Is at the really heart of everything that we do. And Sam and I were just on a coaching session today, and I think we spent probably half of our time talking about box number 2, customer segments. Hey, Sam, today.
Yeah.
So one of the dilemmas is, who's your customer? Are you doing something that's B2C, business to consumer, or are you doing something that's B2B, business to business? Your answer you're supposed to say is, I don't know yet. Or
Me personally?
yeah, you
Are you
personally.
asking me?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
asking you. Are you doing something B2B or B2C? You're supposed to say, I don't know yet, or both. That's up to you.
Well,
So
I don't know
tell
yet.
us who your
I
customer
don't
is.
know yet. I'm not sure yet.
Okay, and who do you
So
think it might be?
So I think it might be students. I think it might be people making big purchases like a home. I think it might be clients of financial planners or people looking for financial services. Um, I think it might be bartenders and servers because that's who I am. I'm a bartender by trade. And it's funny because I want to touch on the point that I think a lot of times people like, everyone has money, right? And when I started FinTrack, it became this incredibly overwhelming process to think, well, who wants what I have to offer? Like, who is this actually for? And I could list 100 different types of customer segments that I could sell FinTrack to. But what Alan and I are really working on is validating who is this for really, and how can then you build the product specifically for that target segment.
Great. And I know you've got things you have to head off to, and so we're going to dive in. But I have one last question to you, and we're going to come back to work on this. It's really important, right? If you are actually got a solution, what you really need to know is what is going to be different about you compared to everybody else, and why does that matter to your
break the
customer?
idea that you need a brick and mortar store to have a restaurant.
Oh, just kind of.
What they are they develop your brand and they
Okay, sorry, I'm not sure. I got some feedback going
create a
there.
restaurant
Yeah, I didn't.
without.
I don't know. We're getting a loop in here, but so Sam, the question is okay, just simply try and tell us, what's setting you apart from your competition, and we'll talk about this. Competition's not just another company; it's what people are doing now. So, what's your unique value proposition?
Yeah. So we believe that FinTrack is a comprehensive solution from start to finish to building your plan. So learning how to build the plan, actually building it through a guided
one-on-one
process
and figure out
and
like
tutorial, and then lastly implementing the plan. Right now, there are a lot of solutions for one or maybe two of those things. There's a lot of education online, but then you have to go somewhere else to build your plan, and then somewhere else to build or implement your plan. A perfect example is someone might learn about budgeting and investments and insurance and stuff like that. Then they'll go to a financial planner to actually have that plan built for them. But then the financial planner sends them out on their own to implement their budget, and maybe they download a budgeting app. Whereas FinTrack is an all-in-one solution for that.
Great. Hey, Sam, thanks so much for coming and joining us today. I think you've given us a really good foundation of how some of these pieces are going to go and fit together. Really appreciate it. And if anybody, Sam, if you've got a LinkedIn or whatever, or a website or everything, please throw that in the chat before you leave so people can track with you and connect with you. I always tell people, if you can connect with a founder who's just a couple steps ahead of you, they are an awesome resource for you. And will be a great support for you moving forward. I noticed a few people have just joined us, and so I have put the links again to the fillable PDF or the PowerPoint template for you to use. So I want to dive right in. But
I just want to say bye, Alan. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, sorry. Thanks, Sam. Thanks so much. You're very welcome.
Right, see you later.
In this group, I've seen some people introduce themselves already. We have lots of different ideas. And whatever you're doing when you're trying to come up with something, you're trying to come up with, hey, how can I do this? How can I build something that's really innovative? And I'd like to get people to think about, hey, how can I make a difference in the world around me directly through my company or indirectly? So I'd like to say this: innovation is about responding to change and solving problems in a novel way with a focus on continuous improvement and thinking outside the box. And one of the things about really working on the lean canvas is it lets you to iterate, to change, to move really quickly. And as you're thinking about your business, you may not be thinking so much about the big picture, but it's always good to step back and think about, hey, what could I do to make a difference in my world, Edmonton, my community, my neighborhood, the world around us, provincially, nationally, and even the greater world around us? And sometimes you might think, hey, that may not be, hey, I'm not going to end poverty, number one, or I'm not going to do something to reduce hunger, but I could give back in some of those areas through my company, and just how I hire people, how I treat people, how I use my profits, and all of those things can make a really big difference. So I love looking at the UN Sustainable Development Goals and just keeping that in as part of my whole journey as a founder and as someone who is starting up a business. So what you have in front of you is called the Lean Canvas. It's one page, and our goal is to take a snapshot of everything that's in our brain, of everything about our idea, and try and get it down onto one piece of paper. And I want to remind you that many of these things are today they're best guesses. Hey, you don't know yet, and as you're putting those guesses down, it's okay to say, I don't know yet. I need to go do some research. I need to do some testing. I need to talk to some people about this idea to figure this all out. So here's the mindset I want you to take on for the next 90 minutes. I want you to think about as a not somebody who's got this great idea. Oh, I've got this idea. It's amazing. And they're holding it close. They're holding it tight. And they're thinking about, I'm going to change the world with this idea. I want you to begin to think like a scientist. A scientist takes their idea. They hold it really loosely in their hands. And they say, okay, I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to test. And when I test this idea, I'm going to find out what works, what doesn't work. And then I'm going to design another test. And I'm going to test again. We call this the learning loop, where you're going to build something, you're going to measure something, you're going to learn, you're going to keep going around and around as fast as you can. Here's the way I want you to think about it. Many people, they love their solution. They love their idea. This is what I'm going to make, and I love it. I want to tell you, put that on the shelf. Take your solution, and for the next little while, put it up on the shelf. And what I want you to do is I want you to love the problem. Businesses that are really successful love the problem more than they love the solution. Of course, they're putting their heart into building something, but why are they building it? Because they want to solve the problem that real people actually have. And so that requires testing quickly and testing cheaply to find out, hey, am I really solving the problem in such a way that the customer really wants to do? So the guy who developed the Lean Canvas really wanted to focus on the things you heard Matt talk about: the problem, the customer segment, the economic proposition. So he said this: capture your business model in a portable one-page diagram. The Lean Canvas is the perfect format for brainstorming a business model, prioritizing where to start, and tracking ongoing learning. So, anybody here made a business plan yet? I can't see everybody, but the people on camera. If you've made a business plan, it can be like 30 or 40 pages long to do that. And it's not a bad thing. When you need to go to the bank, you got to have numbers. If you need to get in front of investors, you got to have a plan. But at the beginning, everything is changing so quickly and so rapidly that it's just not worth that work at the very beginning. You need to be able to have something that's really quick that can change quickly. I work with many companies. They don't write a business plan until even until after they've launched, until they need to get investors or they have to go in front of a bank to get a loan. Because you want to be able to test and focus on the problem. When you've got a product and you're going into the market, there's the time when you may need to write out a full business plan. So here's a couple of things, just reminders. As you're filling this out today, if you've got blank sections, that's okay. But I also want you to think in the present, right where you are today, and maybe no more than 30 or 60 days out. And as you're thinking about it, don't think about, oh, this is what my business could look like in 3 years. But I want you to think about it right now, where you are right now. And lastly, be customer centric. Think like your customer today. Take your solution, put it on the shelf. Think like a customer as you are tackling this. What's the problem your customer wants to have solved? And that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with the problem, and then we are going to look at the customer segment over on the far right. We're going to come back to the middle and the unique value proposition. We spend most of our time on those three, and then we'll do a high-level overview of the rest of the plan. Because if you don't get the first three right, most likely you're not going to have a business. And if anything changes in box numbers 1, 2, or 3, the canvas is going to change. I know people who every time something changes, they make a new canvas. I one time was doing this in person, and we had a really large, like even bigger than I have now here, worksheet that they had in front of them on their table. And they took it and they went down to Staples and they made 20 copies. And every time I've got a different problem I want to solve, or a different customer segment, they actually made a new canvas. One other thing I want to say is here, I don't know if you are, it'd be great to throw up in chat. Is anybody doing a marketplace? You know, the Airbnbs or the skip the dishes or the Ubers where you've got the drivers and the passengers. What I really encourage you to do, if you're doing a marketplace and that's the idea you're working on, either make two canvases or use two different colors of sticky notes or two different colors of font in your if you're doing it digitally. You really want to separate those, because just think about it. If you're the Uber driver, the problem's completely different than for the passenger. The customer segment is different if you're an Uber. The driver is completely different than the passenger. The unique value proposition, why they're using your business, is completely different for the driver than it is for the passenger. So if you're doing a marketplace, do two different ones. So as you think about the problem, I want you to think about it this way. What is the job that this person needs to get done? Okay, what's the problem that needs solving? Right? When you think about when you have a job that you need to get done, you hire a person or a product to do that for you. You know, after this, I'm thinking, okay, when's my supper today? Anybody want to, Carlene? I know you have a name. You know, if you wanted to, you could go, you know, at 8 o'clock tonight, because I got to do this workshop and I got to go straight to do another workshop from 6 to 8, one of the Discover and Validates. So if you could deliver a pizza to my door like 8:15, that would be absolutely perfect. Right? The job I need to get done is I'm going to be really hungry after teaching for 4 hours. And the job I need to get done is, you know, I could grab a piece of toast or something, but I want something that's really satisfying, you know, that meets my emotional needs to do all that. So I'm going to hire a product. I'm going to hire pizza to do this job for me. So I want you to start thinking about what is the problem that you are solving. And here's the challenge. I want you to try and put it in this type of statement. I want you to say, I believe. And why we say I believe is because our canvas is full of assumptions. We maybe not yet have gone out and talked to people. We don't know for sure. Maybe we have some impersonal authority. We know about the problem, but we can only be our customer once. So we're going to say, I believe a certain type of person. Who is it? Facilitators who are teaching for 4 hours. Right? You know, and we're going to work on that in the customer segments, being more specific about that. And then what did they experience, right? And when we talk about this type of problem, I want you to go really big with your emotions. You know, what are the emotions that people experience? And I'll throw some up in the chat for you to get thinking about, because if you're like me, after happy, sad, angry, I run out of emotions to think about to do that. So what are the emotions they experience? I believe facilitators who teach for 4 hours experience cravings, hunger pains, desperation when trying to figure out what they're going to eat at 8:30 in the evening. So what kind of tasks that they're doing. So start thinking about that. I'll put that back up in a second, and I'm going to ask Carlene to be our example here in a moment here about the problem that she's trying to solve with her business. Okay, but let me give you a couple examples. This one is one I really like. A colleague of mine was doing this workshop, and they were doing it in front of a bunch of City of Edmonton employees. And this is pre-pandemic. And she looked at the back of the room, and there was a gentleman, a city manager, and he had his arms crossed. So she walked up to him and said, "What's the problem that you are trying to solve?" He looked at her and he went, "Weeds." Weeds. And so she said to him, "Why?" And he said, "I believe engaged citizens who care about their lawns, and their neighbors' lawns are just a mess, want to figure out a way to do something about it." And then she said, "Why again? Or what do they try and do?" And he said, "Those engaged citizens, they call the city and they try and explain the problem. They try to get help for how to solve the problem of their neighbor's lawn that's covered in weeds. It's just a disaster, and they get nowhere. So she said again to him, why? She said, well, when they call the city, they get on there, they can't get to the right information, they can't find the right person, and they just sort of give up. She said one more time, why? Well, when they call the city, the phone menu system just is not very functional at all. It doesn't help them get to that right person and get the right information. So, this is the city manager. Is the problem he's trying to solve, is it weeds? No. Thanks. I saw your head go back for Siri. I don't know how to say your name properly, so I apologize. No, it's not weeds. I mean, hopefully down the end, way down the road, the neighbor's lawn something happens to it, right? The city mows it and sends them a bill or something. But the problem he needs to solve is the phone menu system. So the challenge is to really dig deep into what is the actual problem that you are trying to solve. So here's the statement here. I'm only going to give you a little bit of time. We'll make sure I'll get this slide deck. I think maybe Cecile already has one, but we'll get this slide deck out to you after the workshop, so you'll have it as a reference point to go back to. So I want to give you about 2 minutes to work on this problem. What's the problem you're going to solve? And I want you to then post it up in the chat. Okay, Carlene, and while everybody's working on this, tell us the name of your company.
Okay, so the name is Shift Metrics.
Okay, and so I'm not going to get you an elevator pitch because I'm going to use you for an example here. So they're going to get a picture and they're going to have to put the pieces together as we work through the boxes, okay? So tell us one of the problems, or maybe you think, I don't know if this is the main problem yet, but what's one of the problems that that you are wanting to solve?
Yeah, so I have a list of about 9, I think.
Okay, just give us 2 and put them in, and I want you to put them in this phrasing, in this statement.
Okay. So I think the one that I wrote already was the one that I'm focusing on currently.
Okay.
So do you want me to put a couple more that I've also worked on?
No, you can just do that one. So put it in this. So here you said, I believe healthcare workers, and we'll come back to that when customer segments, and we'll be more specific, feel disillusioned because they feel their opinions at work don't count. So tell me a little bit, what's behind that emotion of disillusionment?
Yeah, I picked disillusioned because it's that other piece of like healthcare worker burnout and moral injury that kind of goes on with the chronic not being able to serve the public potentially at the rate that you'd want to be able to care for them. So you feel disillusioned because you're always coming into work but not really able to completely offer everything. So the disillusionment is like just a feeling of not being able to give everything that you want to give. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think I'm good. You had this ideal when you went into the profession. I'm going to go into the profession. I'm going to make this difference. I'm going to serve people. And then you get in there and that whole workplace dynamics, it's way less or not even what you thought you were going to be able to do.
Yeah, exactly. And despite maybe striving, you kind of feel a little bit beat down. And that's the part of the fatigue and the frustration at work. Yeah.
Good. Okay. I'd love to see everyone throw one up here. We won't have the time to be able to give feedback to everyone, but maybe your peers will as well too, to be able to do that. We got another one here. I believe couples experience relationship challenges when they don't spend enough time focusing on each other. Okay. So the word couples, I mean, that's a really broad category. We'll try and dive into that in customer segments, but I really, oh, my name is Carrie. I was trying to figure out how on earth do I supposed to pronounce CSRRI. That's great to know now. That's much easier than before. I always love challenging names though, trying to learn it, to do that. Experience relationship challenges. So I would ask you, what are all the emotions that go along with those relationship challenges? We can imagine here as we listen to all of this, and when they don't spend enough time focusing on each other, what does that look like? Is it simply a time? Is it qualitative? Is it quantitative? But this is an excellent start to that. So it makes me very curious what this business that you're working on with too. That's awesome. Diana said, I believe that precarious workers, immigrants, and newcomers, I like how you define that even further. We probably can define that even more. Experience lack of resources when trying to find support. So what are the emotions that go with that experience of that lack of resources? What kind of specific supports are they looking for? Focus in, but great high level start there. So, and I want to encourage you, you've got lots of good problems there and you've laid them out, but can you put them into this statement form? Because when you do that, it really helps you think about from the perspective of the customer, and helps you also realize that you're just making assumptions that you got to go out and validate and prove by talking to potential customers. Demi said, I believe homeowners experiencing leaks, faulty old roof. Okay, so what are the emotions that can go along with that? And then here's the consequence of it: can cause property damage and stress. Right. Hopefully my roof's still in good shape. But try and figure out where's the problem? Is the problem in finding the right kind of contractor? Is it finding a trustworthy contractor? I don't know exactly what business that you're going to tackle there, but that's a great start there. Okay, Carissa, I hope I said that right. I believe people of all sorts of experience, really broad, let's work on trying to narrow that down, experience a lack of proof evidence when experiencing unethical, illegal situations. I believe everyone can experience, here's some emotions, pain, frustration, injustice when experiencing situations because they're simply not believed. Well, very much an emotional problem there. So what's the actual task? It has to do with them not being believed to be able to get justice. Can you put that down to an actual task? Oh, good. Thanks, Diana. Isolation, great emotional word. What all goes along with isolation? That when trying to find support, adapting and integrating into Canadian society. Great start. Hey, thank you so much for those who contributed. Really good start. And so when you're thinking about your problems, two ways to think about it. You may have one sort of overarching problem, like some people have put here, that's high level, and then you're going to get sub problems that come out of that. Or you may have a bunch of different problems that yes, they're related, connected, but they are separate kinds of problems, right? So if you remember, Sam talked a little bit about the education piece about that versus the actual budget versus the implementation. They're all under a big level problem, but they're very distinct problems that will happen in each stage, and he's trying to integrate that. Carlene, when you look at your problems, do you have a big overarching problem under the dissolution and sub problems and a bunch of problems that come out of that, or are they separate problems?
No, it's probably just a big jumbled mess, but yeah, there's a lot of different ones. So like the other one was the high rates of anxiety, depression, PTSD, and even suicide. So that's also a problem, but not one that I'm specifically working on, but it's connected to the other one.
Good. So, and you'll need to be aware of that because that'll be some of the outflow of what you do and maybe some of ways to connect or resource or to provide supports or something through your solution. Good. I love how you've seen and worked on the problems that go around that, that are part of that. So, good. We're off to a good start. I hope the other people, you are just black boxes with white letters in your names, are following along and tracking with us. We'll do our best to interact, but thank you for those who have interacted there. Before we get into the customer segments, it's really important we think about the existing alternatives. And what we really want to think about, okay, here's the problem people have. They don't have your solution yet. You know, they don't have Carrie's wonderful solution or Carissa's wonderful solution yet. What are they doing now? And we call that the existing alternatives. And when we think about existing alternatives, we're not just thinking about competitors. Hey, I'm going to go to McDonald's, or I'm going to go to Dairy Queen, or I'm going to Burger King, right? We're thinking about what are the options for people, what's their current behavior. So I want to do a little exercise, and if you can throw your answers up in the chat, that would be great. My phone is fairly pristine here. It's about 3 years old, no cracks, no nothing. But has anybody ever dealt with a cracked phone screen? So I don't even have a case and screen protector here because my case actually, after 3 years, disintegrated. My screen protector was all cracked. I thought it was into my screen, but it wasn't when I took it all off. But I haven't replaced any of those yet, so not wise. Okay, so I think most of us understand the cracked and phone screen. Okay, so what I want you to do is in the chat here, quickly, let's come up with 5 or 6 different ways that if you had this problem, how would you solve it? I'm sure we can come up with 5 or 6. Give everybody just a second here. Good. Replace the screen, right? And see if it's actually a cracked phone screen. Get a new phone. Okay. I think most of your students, I don't know too many students who just throw their phone over and go buy a new phone. But if you can, great. I want to be your friend. Take it to a cell phone repair shop. Okay. Awesome. Go to one of those kiosks in the malls. Tape. After a while, you've got some clear packing tape to do all that. Check the warranty. Hey, does it have warranty? Do I have insurance? I had a daughter. Well, I have a daughter. Didn't used to have a daughter. I still have her. Who would use up every Apple Care and Costco insurance that there ever was. I haven't seen the bubble wrap, but that sounds like a wonderful idea to do all of that. Look, we just came up with a whole bunch of different ways to deal with that. Which do you think of those is the number one way people deal with a cracked phone screen? Yeah, and Ayana, you got it actually perfectly there. Hey, you do nothing. You keep it until it doesn't function. Your phone doesn't work. Someone else said you ignore it. Carlene said, don't do nothing. If it can work, until I have the money, I'm just going to live with it. So one of the things I want you to remember is your biggest competition is not a competitor. Your biggest competition is your customer's current behavior, what they're doing now, what's going to trigger them to want to be able to do something different. What's going to trigger me at the end of all of this to actually, am I just going to go upstairs and go through the fridge and find something to eat for dinner? Or is there something that's going to motivate me to skip the dishes or to get in my car and to go out? What's going to cause me to do something different than I would do right now? So when you think about that, I want you just to write down, don't try and evaluate things today. Just get it on the paper. Don't think, oh, this is more important. This is most important. Just try and get all of your thoughts down on the paper. Carlene, what are the existing alternatives? What do people do now, these disillusioned healthcare workers?
They go home, they shower, they drink some wine, and they go and do it all again the next day.
And depending on how bad it is, maybe they drink a lot of wine, right? So
Yeah.
to do all that. What other things might they do?
So there might be leaders on the units that speak up more and kind of explain what the opinions are of healthcare workers. So, or the manager kind of knows what's going on the unit. So there's ways of solving it relationally, I guess.
Yeah, so they may or may not have a way to exercise a voice. I guess there are formal complaint or mechanisms, but they can be quite risky to do all of that. And you have said counseling, maybe they're spending a lot of money on their therapist that way. So we could probably, if we took the time here, we could probably come up with quite a list of things that people are doing now to cope because they still need to keep their job. I guess one of the things would be to quit their job and find a new job, right? And so there would be a whole range of alternatives that people could be able to deal with this. Are there any actual competitors as far as products or services?
Well, not really, not that a healthcare worker would use, although I know that's not the right answer.
Oh,
I
and
think
no,
there is.
but no, but it's not always just the competitors in that, because there's two things, and that's why I asked you this question. One thing, if you say people are doing nothing, right? Generally, that's not true. They're doing something, and if they're
Mhm.
really doing nothing, maybe there's not a problem that's worth solving there. Maybe there's not even a business. And the other thing is, if people are doing something and there was a competitor, doesn't mean that, oh well, forget this. I mean, there is nothing in the world that's too big, or no company or no competitor too big that there's not another piece of the pie that you can grab in some way. Just look at social media, how it changes and evolves. People thought, oh, Facebook's the be all end all. Facebook's just one on a platform. My kids were just showing me a new one that I hadn't heard of called Be Real. Do you know that one?
No.
Okay, you'll have to check it out. It just lets you
Okay.
post. It only lets you post once a day. So I'm learning new things on social media. I have a company. They do solar panels and help with installation of. They're uh, a marketplace thing for solar panels, helping installers find people. And they found their number one way to get leads is through TikTok. Who would have thought solar panels and TikTok go together? But they get 50 leads a month through TikTok. So don't think for a minute that you think, oh, there's a competitor, forget this, I'm going to walk away from this. You got to get out there and figure out, hey, what's my niche? We'll get to that in box number 3. What's differentiating me? What sets me apart? What's making me different? So we're moving over to box number 2. Here's our customer segments. And we've started that a little bit by thinking about, I believe, who we believe the customer is. And our goal is to be able to try and narrow that down. But at the beginning, you can even start filling it now. Figure out just anybody you think might be your customer. Sam, today, when I was meeting with Sam, we had multiple customers, from high school students, university students, financial planners. And we're trying to figure out, okay, those all could potentially be your customer. Where am I going to start? And how can I group them into common needs, common jobs to be done, common behaviors? What are the things that they need to be able to differentiate, so I can get in front of a group of them to really figure out if that's the problem that they want to have solved. So at the end of the day, we want to figure out who are our early adopters. And by early adopters, we mean who are our first customers? Who are those people that are going to say, "Hey, I really want to be able to be able to buy, to be able to purchase this." Remember this cracked phone screen, right? And now my phone looks good, but a couple of weeks ago, with the screen protector cracked up and the case not being very good, you might have said, "Alan, I got this great solution for a product that will fix your phone," right? You know what? I have the problem. I know I have the problem, but I wasn't until it fell apart. I wasn't looking for a solution, right? And so don't assume somebody just because they have their problems be your first customer. What you're really trying to find at the beginning are those early adopters, those people who are actively seeking a solution. So, Carlene, how do you know who your early adopters are? Or even now, that's maybe not a fair question. Who do you think might be your early adopters? That's a much fairer question.
So brand new nurses, because I'm a nurse, so then I have that connection there. So brand new nurses, probably in emergency, where right now there's a staffing crisis.
Okay, good. Anybody else any other group that might be? Is that your first target, that one?
Yeah, on the B2C component, the other part would be managers for any organization, like any unit that I have a connection to. So pretty much any unit manager who has the time to talk to me.
Okay, and those managers, what would make them, and what would qualify them, or what would make them be seeking a solution?
Yeah, so maybe a manager that has high retention, or sorry, low retention rates, or is suffering with staff and not really understanding why they're losing staff.
Okay, and probably a manager who's people employee first and bureaucracy second, right?
Yes, that too.
Who's not looking to climb some ladder, right? Those kind of things,
Yeah.
to do all that. So just to help give you one little quick exercise to think about it, in the chat, I want you to look at this. This is a scramble crosswalk. Some people who don't like them call them chaos, right? And this is at 104th in Jasper. Maybe some of you recognize it. Our offices that are at 104th and 104th. There's one there. There's a few of them downtown, another one on White Avenue. There's more of them to do all of that. If I told you, I want you to make a scramble crosswalk better, I would hope that the first question you would ask me is, Alan, who am I making it better for? Right? So like if it was for me or whoever it was for, I mean, when I do these, I promise you, I have never given anybody the finger, but I've waved my finger at people when I've tried to cross the one at 101 and 4th, 104th, because you cannot turn right on a red light. And some people still think you can, and they try to run me down. And I just look at them and go, look at me, I'm kind of big. I'm probably going to hurt your car, so don't do that. And I laugh when they see the hand flashing because they don't know how it works. And they get to the middle, they're trying to run across in time. And they get to the middle and all of a sudden it turns walk. And they go, what's going on here? Right? Or if you've ever been downtown, the people who use the scramble crosswalk before an Oilers game or afterwards an Oilers game are pretty different. And the solution, how they deal with it is very different. So in the chat, and I'm going to give us about 30 seconds, I'd love everyone to put down who is my customer if my job is to make a scramble crosswalk better. Throw some ideas in the chat really quickly. Yeah, pedestrians. And you know what? Pedestrians is one of those what we call umbrellas, the big umbrellas. Who fits under? Oh man, today we got up the two umbrellas really quickly. Pedestrians and drivers or vehicles. Those are our big umbrellas. Now we want to know who we specifically going to make it down for. Now we've got motorized and non-motorized vehicles, which are cyclists or non-motorized vehicles. So try and think of what are some of the categories of different types of pedestrians. Commuters is one. Yeah, good. People who use it every day, who should know how to use it. People in a rush, it might, even though they know how to use it, might try and use it different. Students, if you're at 104th, people going to Grant McEwen, for example, doing all that. Bikes and drivers, seniors. Now, hey, now there's maybe a group maybe we want to make it better for. Could we even break down seniors into some different categories? We're running out of ideas here. What about people with disabilities? And if I said, oh, good. I said, Danielle came up that as soon as I said it. Disabled versus abled. Okay, now let's take that disability and break it down. And I think you'll understand in a moment why I'm doing what I'm doing. Wheelchairs, right? Very much. Got a couple wheelchair ones. Okay, so let me give you this one. I think it will make it come clear. Remember I said how you said to me, who am I making it better for? If I said your customer segment was people who are hearing impaired, you would start to think of solutions maybe with lights and different things like that. But what if I said to your customer segment is people who are visually impaired? All of a sudden your solution is going to be completely different. It's probably going to be based maybe on sounds, maybe having guides, maybe having different bumps in the road, could be having a whole bunch of different solutions based on what the problem is. So it is really important to narrow down your customer segment so that you can come up with a specific solution that will solve their specific problem, right? The finished outcome, we'll talk about that in a second. The finished story they want to have what is I want to get across the street in a safe and timely manner. That's what they're looking for. How you're going to accomplish that for them will be different depending on who it is. What if it's for a different type of vehicle? What if you're doing something to make it better for an emergency service vehicle? Well, you've got to understand they have protocols. They just don't get to turn on the lights and go to Tim Hortons. They have protocols for every type of intersection that they want to cross. And so you've got to know the protocols and how do I change that to make it easier for that emergency service vehicle to get through an intersection when all of the lights are red and it's full of people going in. Actually, if you count it, people are going in 12 different directions if they're in between the lines. More than that if they're after the game, right? And even then, if you're trying to get a solution for, like I said before, the Oilers game after the game, guess what? The police basically say, hey, we can't make the scramble crosswalk better in itself. So what do? They put a bunch of officers on there directing traffic because the scramble crosswalk won't work. It can't solve the problem by itself. So when you're thinking about that and you're writing down your customer segments, think about who might be my early adopters. Maybe you put a little number 1 beside them. Do it in pencil because you don't know for sure. And then you might want to think, who do I know? Right? And Carlene was saying that to us already. Hey, these are new nurses that I'm in contact with, nurse managers that I've already met. Who can I get in front to talk to? Because remember, we're trying to learn at the initial stage. And you might also say, hey, who am I going to ignore for now? Right? I don't know if this is true, Carlene, just from our little conversations before, but maybe there's some, hey, it would be great to have senior managers, adopt this and make this all part of their thing. But maybe in the beginning, you need to say, hey, I've got to prove this out with traction. And hey, I'm going to ignore them for now. They're not my nevers, they're just my not yets. Would that be, that just one thought? Is that an accurate picture?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I've definitely done that. And I think there's some people that I'm like, I might talk to, but I'm not ready yet. So it's been a process.
So on your lean canvas, you can do that. Put little number 1s behind people you think are going to be great, could be great early adopters. Tick marks with the people that you can get in front of, you can talk to, and maybe a little circle or something for those who you say, hey, they're my. I'm not ignoring them. They're just not my not yets. Okay, so we're on to box number 3. That's our unique value proposition. What do we mean by that when we talk about that? Remember, each customer segment may have a different unique value proposition, a different finished story, a different outcome they want. The deaf person walking across the intersection has, and the blind person, they have the same unique value proposition. They both want to get across safely, but sometimes it could be a little bit different. Maybe they want different problems solved. Sam could have people that, hey, what they're really struggling with is I have no idea how to set the budget. Other people say, I have no idea how to actually implement that with his FinTrack app particularly. So remember, your customer has a job they need to get done. They have pains when they're trying to get the job done. It's only 5 o'clock. I'm not hungry yet, so I don't have too much pains. I'm not thinking about having some hot, fresh pizza at this point. But they have gains when they get the job done. That's satisfaction. If Carlene really delivered me a pizza for $8.15, I'd go, this is amazing. Wow. I'd sit down, maybe turn on a TV show, take that pizza, drink a Pepsi Zero or something. I'd go, this is incredible. It wouldn't be just satisfying my hunger. It'd be like, this satisfies my hunger. It satisfies my emotional needs, my social needs. Carlene's an amazing person, must be a true friend. All of those kind of things. Those are all gains that I would experience. I would experience functional gains, social gains, and emotional gains to do all that. And I could experience those kind of pains. There's no pizza at my door. I'm still hungry. Emotionally, I'm despondent because, I don't know what to eat. And socially, no one cares about me. No one really has my health and welfare at heart, right? So at the heart of this down the road is, this single compelling statement that states why you're different and worth getting people's attention. I like to say it this way. What is your difference and why does that difference matter to your customer? Okay. Your unique value proposition needs to come from the problem you're solving. Remember when we said, I believe, we talked about disillusionment, we talked about frustration, we talked about isolation, all of these emotions that you stated in the problem. Now in that finished story, you want to say, what's the opposite of those emotions? What does that actually look like? So let me give you, as you're thinking about that, let me give you a couple examples to work it through. When you think about your unique value proposition, remember we talked about sort of those functional kind of jobs. What's the feature of my solution? It's not the details of the solution. Sure, there's numbers of people in our group today who've gone job hunting. I don't know if you actually had anybody help you build a resume to do all that, But what if I was your resume building service and you came to me, Carrie, and said, hey, can you help me find a job? And I said, yeah, I'm going to give you a professionally designed template. I hope Carrie would say, oh, that's nice. That probably answers the what question. I'd like that. What if I came back to you and said, my unique value proposition is I'm not only going to give you a professionally designed template, I'm going to give you a resume that stands out. Sounds good, right? To do that. I was talking to someone who got a job in the city of Edmonton. There were 800 people who applied for the job. I think you need a resume to stand out. Even I know in our Edmonton Unlimited, generally we get like 60 to 120 resumes for every position. So it's pretty tough to get something to stand out. But that's really a benefit. What does Carrie really want? What's the finished story? Carrie wants to land in an ideal world. She wants to be, she wants a professionally designed template. She wants a resume that stands out, but she wants to land her dream job. That's what you want to, or if you need to pay the bills, you just want to land a job, right, at that time to do that. So you want to be able to tell that what's that finished story that that customer really wants to be able to experience. Doesn't mean you don't have the features, you don't have the benefits. Those are important parts of your messaging. But what is the really that unique value proposition? So an example here, I don't know if any of you have seen this. It's called Campaign Monitor. It's email marketing software for the designers and their clients. And that was their UVP. That answers the what question. It says exactly what they do. But they went and they changed that. So they said, make your emails unforgettable. So, hey, that answers the benefit question. It has a bit of the emotion tied in it. But I don't think that's the finished story. Why did I spend money on a subscription to Campaign Monitor for my business? I wanted to drive results with unforgettable email marketing. That's the finished story. So that was the third UVP they came up with. Doesn't mean the others were bad, but it didn't capture what their particular customer really wanted. So I want you to think about that. Go back to your problem statement. And what's that opposite emotion? You don't have to have the details of your solution, right? But if you solved that problem for the problem that you wanted to solve, and going back and looking at those problems, what would be that finished story? Man, I got a roof that keeps my family dry, right? What's the emotion goes along with that? To Demi, it would be to peace of mind. To do that, think through some of those particular emotions that people are feeling there. So you don't have to come up with the slogan today. We're not coming up with the Nike "Just Do It" slogan. I mean, they spent millions of dollars on "Just Do It" on 3 words, and how to market all of that. But what I want you to think about, what's the story behind the "Just Do It"? Man, I'm sitting on my couch and I need to become more active. Just do it. I don't know where to start. Just do it. I don't know what kind of shoes or equipment that I need to have. Just do it. I don't know what training that I need to get. Just do it, right? So what I want you to be able to capture is what's the story behind like the Nike "Just Do It" for yours when you're thinking about your problem that you want to feel. So Carlene will come to you in just a second, but what's that finished story that's behind the disillusionment? What's for Carrie the finished story for those couples that end up spending enough time together to do all of that? I'm thinking, Diana, for those immigrants and newcomers that lack resources, man, there's isolation, there's loneliness, frustration, desperation. What's that finished story that you can create for them? And you've got quite a few problems there, but at the end of the day, when they have that learning, they have that knowledge, they have that piece all behind them, what are they going to be able to do? And Carissa, yours is complex. But I can see that sense of what are the emotions that come along with finding justice, being able to speak truth and be able to be understood. Those emotions are really powerful. So I'm going to give you a moment to think about that. It may be just some bullet points in there. If a few people can, or even everyone, I'd love to see them, can throw it up in the chat, that would be awesome. So what's that desired emotion? What's that opposite emotion you want your customer to experience? Okay, and then what's the outcome that goes with that? And can you see a direct link right back to your problem? This box 1 has to connect directly to box 3. And if you don't get those two things right, no point even working on your solution, because your solution just has to fit in there, and it's actually just going to solve that problem. It's going to create that finished story that your customer wants to have. So, Carlene, you talked about disillusionment. What's the unique value proposition for your company?
I just kind of realized that they're not connected. So I'm like,
Okay.
oh, I didn't realize that. So yeah, I guess the opposite of disillusionment would be engagement.
And
Um,
fulfillment, right?
yeah, maybe some resilience.
Yes.
And yeah, there's some relational component to that. But yeah, I think I wasn't really thinking of my UVP that way before that. I was thinking of it completely differently. So I don't know if my UVP last time was to give healthcare workers a voice in real time, but it doesn't really relate back to the problem statement.
Yeah, but I think it does. I mean, it does relate back, because if you give them that voice, because one of the other parts of disillusionment, I think, when this has come to me now, I think the best word is empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
So by giving, I don't think you should throw that EVP out as well. But when you give them a sense of empowerment, then becomes the, fulfillment, all of those engagement pieces, the sense of job satisfaction, right? And one of the key ways that is remember, it's what's your difference and why does it matter? You are giving them the voice that enables them to be empowered.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
It
I
doesn't
actually,
fix the emotion, but it
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you tie that in, what comes with that emotion. And that's the differentiate remember that what's your difference and why does it matter? Your difference is it gives them a voice. Why does it matter is because it's going to empower them to have that job fulfillment, job satisfaction, and get rid of that disillusionment. So what's the difference and why does it matter? Those are the two questions you need to answer. So you might even want to put those on your notes there. What's the difference and why does it matter? So we got some empowerment words up in here: satisfactory, relief, satisfaction, respected. Great. I love these kind of words here. If someone wants to write it a little bit more detail, that would be awesome. What's your difference and why does it matter? Good. Awesome work. These 3 boxes are just foundational, and I'm just going to pause there. If something changes in here, you got to go back and look. Okay, so hey, I thought it was this problem. Now it's this problem. And if this is the problem, who am I solving that problem for? Do I understand the customer segment? Who's my early adopter? And now what's the finished story? What's the unique value proposition that that particular customer wants to have? Okay. Now, the rest of the time, we're going to do a high-level overview of the rest of the boxes, because you got to have all of these or you don't have business. But you got to build a really good foundation first for everything that you do. So our solution, when people come to this workshop, I always call this disappointment box, because people come to the workshop and they go, I've got this idea. I'm going to go to this business model 1 workshop, and now I'm going to have my idea all in front of me, ready to go. And then you go to this workshop and they go, they didn't really spend any time working on my solution. And I hope I've convinced you so far, and I'll convince you further about why. Because at the beginning, you want to understand the problem, and when you start to work on your solution, you want to have a solution that you can put in front of people, not to sell, but to test, to see if it is actually really selling the problem. I have people coming up to me. I call them I call them the basement dwellers. They come and they go and they say, Alan, can you help me? And I go, yeah, I'll do my best. I'll say, what have you done? Well, I've spent 6 months in my basement and I've worked on this amazing solution. My first question to them is, who have you talked to? And they go, no, I haven't talked to anybody. I got to have the perfect solution first. And I want to go like this, but then I realize I've got no hair to pull out. Like, it's not going to make any difference here to do that. Then I pause and kindly say, okay, I'll do my best to help you. Or I get the people come to me and they go, I say, what have you done so far? And they say, well, I've spent $15,000 building an app. And it's good. That's at least it's not a crazy amount because I'm working with someone right now and I wish they'd done more testing and they've spent $115,000 building their app. And at least they've done some stuff. They're not dead in the water by any means. But the person who spent 15,000, I asked them, true story, and who have you talked to? And they went, no one. I haven't talked to anyone yet. And same thing I want to do. I go, okay. Because you want to be able to test your solution early and quickly as possible. I want to tell the person building the app, do you know for nothing, you could have built some paper mock-ups and put them in front of people? Or even for a few $100s, you could have got a subscription to Figma. You could have done an app, something, a mock-up of your app that looks and feels like an app that you could have tested with your potential customers. And so that's what I want to be able to say to them. So when you're starting to think about your solution, don't build your whole solution at the beginning. Don't try and figure out all the features. And most of all, don't fall in love with your solution, right? Anybody ever said, hey, I want you to look at my ugly baby? No, everybody thinks their baby is beautiful and gorgeous. I feel bad for my mom. I'm sure she was showing off me and people were going, I'm not sure. That baby's like not looking quite right there. Funny little story in 2 seconds. My mom had terrible complications when I was born. I almost died. She almost died. So I was a big baby, 10-pound baby. And they put me, this is back in the days when you had the glass windows and everybody, and they put me in the ICU. And they had little tiny incubator things. So I filled up the whole thing. True story. People would come and go, oh, look at that little preemie, look at that little preemie. And they go, what's that monster doing in the ICU? This great big baby in there doing all that. So don't fall in love with that. Nobody will ever say they have an ugly baby. But think about, how can I change quickly based on what's happening? Can I just list, here's the capabilities I want it to have. And if I need to, because I love the problem and I don't love the solution, can I pivot quickly if I need to? So, quickly, I'm only gonna give you 30 seconds on your thing. What's the simplest form of your solution that you could build? And what are you going to build? What do you need to achieve? What do you need to do? Carlene's already given us a lot of hints about some of the things she needs to achieve and do. She needs to talk to both sides, the nurse's side, the manager's side. So what's the simplest form of your solution that you could actually put in front of a potential customer? Carlene.
It's just been helpful to have sort of a visual, like a little PowerPoint, and kind of just go through what I've been working on and what it is exactly. But I'm getting better at explaining it verbally as well. So sometimes you just need to have an idea of what it is and then just explain it and get their feedback that way.
And I love that. Just a simple PowerPoint of here's what my solutions could look like, and this is what it's going to be able to do. That's all you need to do. I remember a military mom who traveled across country, wanted to build an app, and she wanted to be able to, because if you can imagine, military families transferring records and all of those things from dentists and doctors and eye doctors is so thing. And I remember she come to test me. She had raided her kid's craft cupboard, and she had construction paper and sticky notes and crayons and markers. And she said, okay, here's my app, open it up. I opened it up. She said, okay, what would you press first? I did this. What would you do next? I go, I think I'd want to do this. So she'd move the sticky note, or she'd put another piece of paper in front of me. And she had this whole pile of paper since she kept moving everything around for the app. All she did was, what did it cost her? Well, I hope she replaced the supplies in her kids' crap to do all that. And it took her some time. And she got so much learning from just doing that. That was the simplest form of her solution that she could actually use to test. So time's up. That's all we're going to spend on that. That's why I call it disappointment box. Box 5. This is all about the channels. And there's 2 channels that we're going to talk about here. The first about is, how does your product reach your customer? Do you have a physical product or a virtual product? And how does it reach your customer? Does it reach it through a physical channel or a virtual channel? Let me give you one example. Amazon. Think for a moment, what is it? Generally, most of the time, it's a physical product. I mean, the truck comes to our door, drops something at our door that way. How do we access it? We access it through a virtual channel. Okay. Carlene, what's your product? Physical or virtual? Or what will it be?
They're both virtual.
Okay. Okay. So they'll access something, an app, they'll put that on their phone or whatever, and they'll download that particular app. So I'd love to see people just think for a moment. If you want to throw it up in the chat, what kind of product you have. Is it physical or virtual? And what kind of channel is it, physical or virtual? And how might it change? Right? Example to think about change. Insurance, for example. Hey, yeah, well, I have the paper in my hand, but I don't really have insurance. It's really a virtual product until I actually go and use it, repair my house, and replace my car. How do I access it? Generally, traditionally it was very much physical. I had to go see my broker or see my insurance agent. Even getting on the phone, that's still a physical channel. But now we can see many insurance companies. I can do it all completely online. So they've moved now that primarily moving towards a virtual, but I can still access it through a physical channel, right? How do we access, if we're going to do access restaurant food, we can go in and eat it there, or we can access it physically, or we can access it online through an app or through Skip the Dishes or Uber. So think that through. What do you have right now? And is it, some of yours won't change, I know that, but could it possibly change? And thanks. I saw some more things come up on the UVP. Well done. Okay, the second part of the channel is how you're going to reach your customer. And this is going to turn into your marketing down the road, but now you're wanting to get in front of your customer so you can learn if this is a real problem that they want to have solved. And so what can you do to actually get in front of them? This comes from a great book called Traction. It's a marketing book that we use quite often. And it just lets you think about all the different ways that people can get in front of their customers. So if, for example, I wanted to develop a new business workshop, what would I do to be able to test that and to be able to find out what people want? One of the things I could do while I'm doing this workshop, I could talk about another workshop and see if people want to come and be engaged to it. Maybe I go to a business trade show and talk to different people that are there. Maybe I'd figure out how to do a Facebook ad to say, hey, what are the problems you're facing in your business, or start a Facebook group to do all that. So I'd brainstorm a bunch of ideas, and then I think about, hey, how am I going to rank these, prioritize these? What can I go and test? And if that channel works good, hey, I'm going to use it. If it doesn't, I'll do something different, and then I'm going to really focus in. And this getting in front of customers is going to be the same when you actually go down the road, when you have your product or service and you actually go to marketing. So think about what are the channels you can use to get in front of your customers. So how many potential customers have you talked to, Carlene?
Oh, like 100.
100? And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome. That's totally
I would
awesome.
say maybe 20 in the B2B and 80 in the B2C.
Okay. And I often say to people at the start, you need to talk to about, if you're doing B2C, business to consumer, you need to talk to about 50 potential customers. So you way exceeded that. And then for B2B, you should talk somewhere 15 to 25 customers, right? So you're right on target for that one. So how did you get in front of them? How did you find them?
So I just started with the connections that I had, and then I made a habit of always asking for a referral at the end. And that has sort of taken me on a journey all over Canada and talking to all sorts of people. So I always just make sure that I ask for a connection or two with every
So
talk.
you've done that sort of spreading the circles wider and wider kind of piece, which is an awesome, approach to finding that. Did you post any ads or put anything up in any Facebook groups or anything like that?
No, I use Facebook more anonymously to ask like nurses groups, and I would test ideas in the Facebook group and see what they'd say to
Well, that's
sort
an
of get
awesome. So using those,
opinions. Yeah, and like see how engaged they were in the questions I was asking.
what awesome way to test the problem. Did you actually get any interviews out of those groups?
No, I think there was at one point, like a year or maybe 6 months ago, I had asked someone for an interview after, and I sent them a link, and then I was banned from the group after that
Yeah,
because
that's always the risk when you get into groups. If they think you're selling or pitching, it can be a real detriment.
yeah.
So I want you to just to think, and you don't know for sure, but on your canvas right now, think about, hey, if I had needed to get in front of 50 people, if I'm doing B2C, or if I need to get in front of 15 or 20 people, if I want to do a business to business, how am I going to find those people? So just take a moment and just list different ways that you could find those people. It's one of the things that we do in the next series in Discover and Validate, our customer discovery. We spend all of week 2 basically thinking about who to ask, what to ask, and where to find them. We spend a whole 2-hour workshop just working on those things because those are just absolutely crucial to really understanding the problem. And that list I gave you is just to help you really get thinking of all of different kinds of things you can do. It's not a totally comprehensive list, but it's an awesome start. Okay, everyone loves box number 6. How am I going to make money? Where's the money going to come from? How am I going to sell my business for $10 million? All of those kinds of things to do all that. But what I want you to think about today is not how much money you're going to make. I want you to think about is how you are going to make money. So the revenue stream, when we talk about a revenue stream, that's the source of the incoming money. Traditionally, when we think about that, we think about an asset sale. We go to the grocery store, we buy a jug of milk. You know, very transactional. We pay money, we walk out with the milk. And an asset sale could be anything from a t-shirt to a jug of milk to data. It's a specific asset that we buy. Another way to make money is usage and lending. You know, if with that whole thing, hey, if you're going to use these particular services, if Cecile charged you money for this workshop, that would be a usage fee to do all of that. You have such access to such awesome resources. Or lending something, renting something, is all of those kinds of things. Subscription. Subscription is one of the biggest, fastest growing revenue streams in our world today. You just think about subscription. I recently did a thing with you know, a 20-something, and we were just calculating, and we figured in the next decade they would spend at least $30,000 on subscriptions. That's a decent car or a down payment on a decent little house there. That's a lot of money, but people are willing to do that. It's small chunks of money at a time, right? You know, we're not willing to, you know, pay X dollars for Netflix. Well, some people think Netflix is too expensive, but we'll pay a small amount every single month. And it's something you need to really think about. Resale and sustainability. Look at the growth of resale in all sorts of different ways. The different stores is not just Value Village anymore. There's many different types of stores that are doing resale. Is that a revenue stream? What about licensing or franchise? You know, those are the big things from Disney to McDonald's and those things to franchise. Is there a way my product or service that I could scale it by giving other people permission to use everything that I've developed? When we think about brokerage, easiest way to think about that's how marketplaces generally work. That's how the Airbnbs, the Ubers work. People are paying a percentage to each particular side, and you're the middleman, and you're taking a cut in all sorts of different ways. One of the reasons why people got so angry at companies like Skip the Dishes, because there's the delivery fee, then there's the service fee, right? And then, you know, whatever other fees, and then you don't even realize as a customer, they're making the restaurant give them anywhere from 20 to 30% kickback on what you paid for the food. And so that's why many restaurants said, just order from us directly and we'll figure this out, because they just were having a hard time making it break. Advertising, well, the biggest companies in the world make money from advertising, right? We're not Google's customer. We're a user. The customer is the advertisers. We're going to pay for it when we buy the products that advertise on Google, but we're just a user. And make sure when you're back to our customer statements, make sure that you know who are your users and who are your customers. They could be the same and they could be very different. At the end of the day, maybe in Carlene's case, the users aren't paying anything. The institutions are paying for that. So, but let me ask you that question. How do you think right now that you're going to make money, Carlene?
So if it's the healthcare organizations, it would likely be subscription based for software, basically. And then another possibility would be some sort of social enterprise, and then I would potentially be charging a healthcare worker, or advertising.
Good. And so I like that. So as you start out, you're going to probably think about one primary revenue stream, but there could be other revenue streams, and this can change and evolve. Don't get locked into thinking there's only one way to make money from your business. So think about this. Take a moment, write down what you think is your primary revenue stream on your canvas, and what do you think might be some other ways that you could possibly make money. And this list is a great starting point for that. Box 7, that's the one we don't want to talk about. These are the cost, and doing a startup, like I said, is hard. And like we did revenue streams, we're not thinking about the exact dollar amounts now. You'll be doing lots of work on that. We're thinking about, hey, what are the different types of costs? And I want you to think about the costs right now at the early stage. Like, hey, if you're really going to go out and interview 50 people, what's that going to cost? If you're doing that on a Tim's budget versus a Starbucks or a specialty coffee, that can be a big difference to do that. If you're going to get on Zoom, do I need to have a Zoom account to do all of that? What are some of the things to build that simplest form of my solution that I can get out and test? Can I do just a paper prototype? Do I need to build a mock-up of an app? Do I need to have an explainer video? What are some of the things that I don't have to spend a lot of money, but it's going to cost me something to put in front of it? And so just think about the different types of costs that you have, and both the monetary and the non-monetary. I think it's always good to do a bit of a pause here. I said it a couple times, doing a startup's not easy. It's great. You have great supports like the Maji Center and other groups that are behind you, but it's hard. What if you're doing something, you're working on something? Sam at the beginning, he works part-time. He goes to school full-time. He's in Propel program. He's in League of Innovators, and he's trying to get this business on the ground. You heard him talk about it really just a little bit at the beginning today. That's not easy. So what's the cost to relationships? How does that affect if he has a partner? What is that like? What is it like for your own mental health? I was talking to Sam. I said, hey, sometime in these semesters, you're going to have some moments. Trust me, I promise you. Not a nice promise, but you're going to have some moments. And what are you going to do in those moments that are just extremely difficult to look after your own mental health? So pause for a moment and think about, when you think about starting your business, think about these expenses, these things, and some of the issues around. What is the biggest unknown? What scares you the most? And I really would like people to throw that up in the chat, because if you're thinking about it, probably someone else is thinking about it too. So this is one I would really love to get engagement from 10 people here. I hope I'm not too optimistic.
Is it the biggest unknown about our expenses that you want to know?
Yeah, it can be that. It can be that, or just what in general scares you the most starting your company. One of those two questions. Yeah, not making money. At the end of the day, hey, I've done this. And one of the big questions people ask me often, hey, when do I quit my full-time job? People are 6-9 months to a year from when they engage their startup and launch it before they actually make any money. That's a long time. If you got stress or failure, the operating costs, time, materials. I don't know. I'd love to know what's behind all these businesses. Yeah, to do all that. Who's going to pay me? Especially if you're doing something that maybe is in that social enterprise area. Yeah, so the people that you really want to, I love that, Diana. You really understand the people that you really want to help can't pay. So who can pay? Can I get funding? Can I get grants? Should I be a not-for-profit where I'll make a salary, but I'm not going to get rich on this? Or do I do a social enterprise? How much is it going to cost to make that MVP? So there are some things you need to have things to be able to make something to put in front of people. Or when you have employees and they're relying on you for their livelihood. Yeah, the risk that's involved, or the risk, yeah, your credibility. Are you seen as a bit of a, Carlene, are you the rebel rouser, the troublemaker, the one who's disrupting the status quo out there? Great, thank you. Thank you for people's honesty, vulnerability, for people just engaging there. So just make sure you've taken a moment to think about what are some of the different costs that you need to think of. Down the road, you put some numbers into it. You'll figure out a budget. You'll figure out how much runway you have, right? I was talking to someone, they've set aside some money, but I try to make it to them. Actually met with them today. And I said, okay, so based on this much of money and you're willing to invest this, whether it succeeds or fails, what do you need to do to get to be a break even point? And how much time do you have? Okay, they figured out they've got 6 months. Okay, in those 6 months, where do you have to be at? They've already launched their company. What sales do you have to have? Then we're working backwards. Well, how are you going to get there? Right? And can you get there? What happens if you don't get there? And how can we measure that along the way? No point waiting for 6 months to see if it happens or not happens. Let's make a plan. Okay, we're dialing in. Box number 8. This one maybe for some people say is a little bit early to think about, but it's a really important one to think about. And you need to be able to start to track things earlier. We call this the key metrics, or sometimes we define as this. This is the data by its value gives the company a measure of a company's health or performance. Hey, you might say, I don't have money. I can't tell you my monthly recurring revenue or my annual recurring revenue. I'm still figuring all that out. How do I know, hey, that how I'm doing? So one of the things in the very beginning is starting to think about, what am I actually going to measure? Hey, I'm going to go and I've identified this group of potential early adopters. I'm going to go and do 10 interviews, and I'm looking for 6 of them to be able to actually say that this is a real problem. So what does it tell me of 8? Well, that's an affirmation. What does it tell me of 4? Maybe do I have the do I have the right customer segment? Am I asking the right questions about the right problem? So as early as possible, it'll be a little bit qualitative at first. It'll become more quantitative. So here's the way I want you to think about it. We call this pirate metrics because of the acronym AARRR. So just to help you remember it, I'll do my classic R. So pirate kind of sound, just to help put this into your brain, okay? To think about that. So we think about acquisition. How do users find us? Activation. Do users have a great first experience? Retention. Do my users actually come back? And the retention could happen at a few different places. Revenue. How am I making money? I may make money before or after retention. And referral. Hopefully people are referring all the way along the way. So to help you understand this, and that's on the screen in front of you, I want to just give a little illustration. I wish I had a flower in front of me, but I don't. I want you to imagine that you are a flower shop, a brand new flower shop, and I am your potential customer. Okay? So, oh man, I open the door, I come in. Oh, your flower shop is beautiful. I love the displays in the window. Oh, but finding you? Oh man. I wanted to go and eat at a real nice trendy restaurant. And, my friend Carlene, she told me to go to this cool restaurant, but she is the worst at directions. She said, go down that street. I think it's 104th, and then turn right at at the one that has the really cool billboard. Look for the brown awning, and it's sort of just across the street from that. Just terrible direction. I got completely lost, but I found your flower store, and I saw the windows and stuff, so I just had to come in. These flowers are beautiful. Oh, but they're kind of expensive, but I love these flowers. Okay, I'm gonna do my best to remember you are, and when I need you, I'm gonna come back. Oh, 2 days later. Oh, I remembered, and it's my partner and I. It's our anniversary, and I didn't get anything, and I remembered your flowers, so I'll take a dozen of those. They're exactly the same as I had at my wedding. They're beautiful. Here, let me pay for those, and it's not fair. But it's my partner's birthday. What's today? It's our anniversary today on what is this today? Wednesday, and it's her birthday on Saturday. I'm gonna come back Saturday morning. Those purple flowers are absolutely beautiful. I love your shop, and I have some friends that are gonna get married soon. I got some other friends. I think they're gonna get buried soon. So I'm gonna make sure I tell everybody about your flower shop. So did you see there? What was one of the problems this flower shop had? It was the acquisition. How do I find them? It's not, yeah, right. It's not easy to find. Did I have a great first experience? Yeah, it was awesome. They had a few things to overcome. They had price was an obstacle, but they had quality to overdo that. They had the visual, the kind of displays. They made money. I came once, and the retention, I came back again. And referral, I loved it so much, I told others. So as you're thinking about growing your business, and at each one of these stages, I work with companies all the time. There's different things that you can measure and that you can think, and then you can think about your conversion rates. You can think about your churn rates. Where do people fall off? Lots of different things. So right from the beginning, think about what's important for you to measure. And what I want you to think about, if you're going to measure something, like people say, well, so many people came to my website. I went, yeah, that's nice. So what action did they take? Because acquisition happens when they took an action. They filled a form for inquiry. They signed up for a consultation. They said, hey, talk to me further, right? And activation happens when they give you value. The flower shop gave me value when I smelled those flowers and I saw how beautiful it was, to do all that. And I can measure those different kinds of things. So, Carlene, you're at the very early stage. Are you measuring anything right now?
Mm, No, not really. I almost had a pilot, so I was gonna say, oh, I have one pilot, but then it fell through. So
Okay, so
I
when you got that pilot, there would have been, okay, give us an example of
yeah.
something. As soon as you got that pilot, what did you want to measure in that pilot?
I wanted to measure the rate of engagement. So if I tell 100 nurses, or let's say 10 nurses, about what I'm doing, and if 10 of them use it, that's a great response, or if one of them does, or none. So that rate of conversion, I guess.
Okay, awesome. So right at the very beginning, and like I said, most of you are at the very beginning, so it's acquisition. Hey, what is it that I want to know from the very beginning? How do I measure it? How do I start to validate that this is a real problem that people really want to have solved? Okay, box number 9. Um, I like this box. This is your unfair advantage. Remember in box number 3, we talked about the unique value proposition. That was all about your product, your service. That was all about when you solve the problem for the student, not for the student, the problem for your customer, to do that. In this box, it's all about why you. Why are you the person to do the job? And so when you think about that, it's an unfair advantage, something that cannot be easily copied or bought. For example, there's only one you. So if I said it to you this way, why are you the best person to do this job? So it can be really personal. Maybe you just lived this experience. Carlene, you have a nursing background, correct?
Yeah.
To do that. You have a pretty large network, right, of people that follow you, right, and you connected with. Maybe you have existing customers. Maybe you're building community. Maybe you get someone who just has that expert endorsement who says, hey, I really believe in what they're doing. Maybe you're building a product where you've got that insider information. You just know how to put two things together. So let me ask you, Carlene, at the heart of this, why are you the person to solve this problem?
Yeah, I don't know. This for me, this is I feel compelled to do it because I feel like I'm the only one who can do this.
Okay, you feel like you're the only one. That's good. That's a real inner
Yeah.
source of real passion, something that sets you apart. There might be other people who may have the capabilities, but it's
Yes,
not
of
just
course. Yeah.
capabilities, it's drive and passion to be able to do this. And if you're not
Yeah.
sure, after this workshop, ask someone, hey, why do you think I'm the person to be able to solve this problem, to be able to start this kind of business? Why do you think I would be really good at doing this? So this is now the last one I want to actually see. I'm going to ask you one more thing in a moment, but this is the last one I see in the chat. I want you to think a minute and don't be like a good Canadian, be too modest. I'll throw this list back up here for a second. This is just a starter. Maybe it's you've got a good team, got great support around you. Maybe you just know how to use social media. It could be a number of different things, your expertise you bring to there. I want you to put in the chat, why are you the person to solve this problem? You just invested like 2 hours in this workshop. Okay. Maybe it's sort of like a requirement as part of a program, but it's more than that. You're serious about trying to start a business to solve a certain part of a certain program. So in the chat, why are you the person to solve the problem? And this one I'd really love to hear from everybody. I appreciate the people that stayed on camera with me. It's nice to not talk to a blank screen. I'm going, getting anything out of this, or are they making their dinner? They're watching a TV show. Who knows? But this lean canvas is very helpful and so foundational. And Noop, I love that. I'm a problem solver. I see a problem and I want to solve the problem. Carissa, my past career and experience. You've lived that. You've been there. Let's get a half dozen more before we wrap up here. Okay, I know we're being really shy here. Oh, my education and my ability. Thanks, Shane. That's really good. I see you as a real team player and can rally people around, and you've taken that learning. Probably you're very much a lifelong learner. Yeah, the supports that you've put around you to do all that. Tiana, access to facilities and expertise. Hey, I've got the places to be able to solve it, and I've got the expertise myself or in the people around me to do this. Chris, my desire to make a difference. Hey, I'm going to do something that's going to have a lasting impact. I'm going to leave a legacy. Experience, that initiative, being that proactive. Comfort, excellent. Oh, I love reading these. So cool to hear just the drive behind all of this. So, great. You've done awesome. We've gone through 9 boxes, and I hope I've given you a start to go back and to do this work, to go back and revisit the boxes. We'll make sure we get the slide deck to you. If you go and pick up one of these brochures from Cecile, it has on the back side, it has all the key concepts and key points on the back side for you to be able to refer to. But before I make a last few comments, I have one more thing I want you to do. What are you going to do with this lean canvas in the next week? Maybe before the end of this week. What's the one thing? Maybe it's the what's the one maybe box that you want to get out and test? Where's the one thing you have to get more information? Where's the one piece? Hey, I really need to talk to more people about this. I want you to set yourself one goal. Hopefully that one goal, I'd love to say set 5, but I know life. Set 1, and hopefully 1 will lead to 2, will lead to 3, will lead all the way to 5. Okay, and I want you to think about that. Put that up at like on your paper, the top right corner, or somewhere if you're doing handwriting, put it there, circle it in red. Put that somewhere where you can say, hey, this is my commitment to myself of something I'm going to do in the next week. Okay, and I want to remind you, and Sam said this at the very beginning when he started out. He said that the lean canvas is like a living document. It's not something, okay, I'm finished now. No, it's something you continually work on. Teams go back to this, they change this. I had a project who was working with micro businesses in North Africa, and they actually did 100 lean canvases, which is like, which is like crazy. But they just kept working on it and doing that. You don't have to make lean canvases, but you go back and you change it and you move things around. You take your learnings. It's a way to capture the things you learn and put it down there. Hey, I went out and I did 10 interviews. What did I learn? Hey, my understanding the problem. I thought the problems were this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now I find out, hey, it's 3, 4, 5, and then another problem I didn't even know existed needs to be right in there on the list. I thought it was this customer segment, and hey, they moved from, hey, I thought they were my early adopters. Now I find out, hey, they're my not yets, and now this is my early adopters. The finished story. I thought it was, someone today thought, hey, it was all about education, but it was more about, hey, how do I turn this and how do I make more money out of this? And the unique value propositions change, and you're continually evolving that as you change that. So take this, use it. I had one person, a medical student from U of A, do this workshop, and they were in the middle of medical school, but they were working on their business, and they wanted to hold themselves accountable. So they took their lean canvas and they put it on the wall right beside the mirror in the bathroom. So every day they would have to look at it and think about it in the midst of that so they could keep working on their business. So hopefully this can motivate you. It can hold you accountable. One of the things I would encourage you to do is take this and show it to someone and say, hey, look at this. What do you think is the riskiest assumption I'm making? What's the thing that could cause this to crash and burn and all that? Show it to someone maybe who has some expertise or has been down that road or has some business expert, and get someone to look at it. I'm happy to do that for you too. Just send me an email and I'll set up a meeting, and I'm happy to do all that. But take some action kind of steps to do that. So we're gonna wrap up here in just a moment here because I've got to do another workshop for 2 hours and 10 minutes and right away. So I'll take a 2-minute break. But thank you so much. For those who interacted, I loved it. I really appreciated. For those who are just sitting on the sidelines, I hope you're able to take some really useful information out of this today. But I do have a minute or two just to answer any questions. So feel free to come off chat or to throw them, come off mute and say them verbally or throw them in the chat. Thanks there, Carrie, very much. And I think we all should say a big thank you to Carlene. I was thinking today, I wonder if Carlene's going to be there. And then I was going to warn you, then I got so busy. And then when you were here today, I went, okay, I'm not giving her any options. So
No worries, it's okay. I work better when nobody gives me any options. Otherwise, I would have said no.
no, thanks. It's great. It's great. I had Sam at the beginning, and have you have a real life example was just awesome today. And I hope your input was a real help to everyone else. For some of you just starting out, reach out to Carlene. I know she's really willing. She's someone who is always learning. She is a really good student and always willing to learn. And she's maybe at the same place as you, or maybe only a step or two ahead. And she will certainly let you know the lessons she's learned, the things she did well, the things she didn't do well. Find those people and do that. And use your resources. Use Cecile. If you haven't had a chance to connect with Dale, Dale's awesome resource for you to be able to connect with as well. Any questions before I let everybody go? And I'm really easy to find if you use LinkedIn. That's sort of my business card because of my spelling of my name, and you'll see my bald head. I'll just put how I spell my name in the chat there. You can find me pretty easy, and I'm happy to connect. Good question. I don't know if we recorded this or not. I'd have to ask Cecile. Did we record this or no? Oh, good. We have it recorded, so you'll get the slide deck and a recording of this today to go back and to watch again. Okay. Thanks, Cecile. I know you're in the in-person one, and Tristan's probably got another 10 minutes to go there, I'm sure. So thanks, everybody, and I look forward to connecting.
Just one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Comfort.
Oh, thank you. So I'm wondering, what is the best possible way to draft a very good business plan?
Really, one of the things I really would encourage you to do is to take the time and really fill out this lean canvas and use that. If you've got to do a business plan for an assignment or for something else, the lean canvas will really help you inform what needs to go into that business plan. But I would encourage you to work with the lean canvas for as long as possible before you actually go and write your business plan. And go and test those boxes. Talk to people. Hey, find out. Hey, is this the best channel to use? Hey, have I really understood the big one is, do I understood the problem? Because you want to do a problem interview first before you do a problem solution interview. People always want to jump to product market fit. They want to be able to sell what you really need to do first before you ever do product market fit. You got to do problem solution fit. You got to figure out, does your problem actually fit with the solution? You got to figure out that, and do customers really want that and are willing to pay for that? So happy to connect with you further. Hope that is a start to an answer to your question. We got our number one fan here today. Hi, buddy. Okay. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Can we have your LinkedIn name, please?
Yeah, and I'll put my email in there one more. I'll put my email in one more time. But I know Cecile can pass on my email to you too as well. She'll pass on the contact information to everybody here as well. Have a great day. Thanks, Carrie, for all your great contributions. Appreciate it. Thank you, Anoop, for your comments in the chat. Really appreciate it too as well.